keep it real with ya.
Hey guys, it's me, Minu, back with a continuation of the other video talking about Matt Walsh. So, in the first video, I spoke about the article that he's referencing specifically because you know how I am. I want to read the article first. And if you missed that, please go and watch it because I had some, um, I think it gives a lot of context, especially because now I'm going to be reacting to how Matt is reacting to the article. I also looked at the study that that previous article was referencing because again, you know me, I want the source. I want to know where you got your information from. I want to know who told you that. I want to know why you think that, how you came to that conclusion so that we can have a good discussion about it. This is not just going to be a Matt Walsh said something about something that he saw, about something that somebody else wrote, about something that somebody else wrote. We're not doing that. I want to go back all the way to the beginning. So, in the first video, I did all of that while also taking down my hair, and I'm going to continue to do that. I just need to, see what Matt Walsh's commentary is. Now, I did watch the video previously, and I had some ideas and some opinions about it. One of my followers and friend like shared it with me and was like, you know, they said that they saw a lot of videos about it, which I did come across several videos talking about Matt Walsh's video specifically, but they went to the actual video that everybody was referencing to watch it and see what they said. Now, again, like I said in the last video, I don't follow right wing people. I follow now. Don't I love me a problematic leftist? I follow some of those people. Um, but I've never followed like Matt Walsh or Steven Crowder or Tim Pool or like any of those like super right wing people because I just disagree with a lot of the stuff that they said. Um, but you know, I wanna like watch this because it's talking about asexuality, and I want to see, is he actually making good points or is he just saying some random stuff? And then I also want to connect what he's saying to the actual original article to see if he's even being genuine in his criticism of the article. So I don't know if I can play a video while also recording myself, but let's see if they'll do it.
So what to do with a holiday that assumes romantic and sexual attraction are the norm? This year, she's doing what she usually does on February 29th. I mean, why not tell us the names of this grown adult stuffed animals? And if that's not enough, we're also treated to a picture of Odell with the stuffed animals, along with this caption. This is the caption under the picture. It says, Odell Pax with her 3 dolphin stuffed animals, Sylvia, Findle, and Marcia, from left to right. It's a very good thing they specified from left to right, because otherwise we wouldn't know for sure which stuffed animal is named Marcia and which one is Sylvia. So now we know, and we can sleep easy tonight. Sleep easy, anyway, with the somewhat cruel satisfaction we all sometimes experience after seeing someone else's utterly pathetic and depressing life and feeling deeply relieved that it's not our own life. I try not to delight in the misfortune of others, and I don't delight at all in Odell's misfortunes. I don't. But I will admit that when I read this article and I see that picture, I can't help but think to myself, my God, I'm glad I'm not that person. Anyway, here's more from the.
So just this part about Odell being like, "Ooh, they're so pathetic. They have stuffed animals." Okay, man, what? So who cares? A lot of adults have stuffed animals. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with having stuffed animals. I actually bought, I got the Squishmallows here. I don't buy Squishmallows. People give me Squishmallows. I've given my friends Squishmallows. Like I know people who love stuffed animals, and I think that that's totally fine. I don't think that there should be an age limit on whether or not you can have soft, cuddly things. And I think I said this in my previous video where I saw them like, talking about their stuffed animals, and I was like, this person looks like if I went over their house, it would be super comfortable. Like it'll be a soft ass couch, and they'll have like really soft blankets, and they might offer me a mug of cocoa or some shit. I don't know. They just seem like somebody who likes to be comfortable, and I like comfortable people. So I don't. I think he's just trying to be edgy here and be like, oh, because he's like wearing his suit and shit and he's all adult. Um, and it annoys me when men act like this because it's just your fragile masculinity. I remember, unrelated, when I first got this stuffed animal, who was it? Teresa over there, and that's the stuffed animal name. I didn't give her that name. I was working with a boomer woman who her whole thing was like, look, we're gonna be working here like for however long, like in 8 hours a day for however many months. So might as well make the area comfortable. And she literally turned her desk and then the little area where we were sitting, we had a shelf behind us. She literally made it the most comfortable space ever. Like people wanted to just come in and just sit and talk with us because she had squishmallows, she had candy, she had snacks. And so like one day the director, which is this older black man, comes through and he sees like me holding a squishmallow. Like this is my first time ever holding a squishmallow. And I was like, hey, this is kind of nice. I get something I can hug, while I'm like looking at these spreadsheets. This is nice. And she had one, and then there was two sitting on the shelf behind us. So I'm just like, I'm holding my squishmallow, and he comes over and he's like he just caught me touching myself or something. Like yeah, like what's up? How you doing, Mr. Director? And the boomer lady was sitting next to me. She's like, oh, these are called squishmallows. And he's like, oh, like you act like I wasn't wearing clothes or something. Like I'm just holding a fucking uh, unicorn, like he was just so weird about it. And she was like, yeah, this is just something, she was like, oh, do you want one? Like this is just something that we have. Like, I gave one to Minu, so she can hug it and stuff whenever she's feeling stressed. If you're feeling sad, you can just hug the squishmallow and make you feel better. And he was just like, oh, okay. And then he like walks off. And I never liked that man because he very much gave me the vibe of like he saw me as beneath him because I wasn't like he was the director and I was just like a regular little individual contributor, like bottom of the totem pole type person. But my manager was great. My manager was like, oh man, that's so cool. Squishmallows. Like he didn't know what a squishmallow was, but when he found out, he was like, oh, those are softer than the regular soft stuffed animals. He's also a gay man, so there's this. Yeah, but the point is, I hate it when men try to make fun of people for wanting something soft. It just shows how weak you are as a man that you can't handle other people. And a woman nonetheless. You can't handle women being soft. That's how fragile your masculinity is that you can't handle women being soft. Come on now.
The Washington Post, it says PAX is not alone in rejecting the notion that relationships acknowledged on February 14th have to include romance and sex. Roughly 1% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans are asexual, according to a study from the Williams Institute at the University of California, Los Angeles. Now, the article does continue providing along the way more examples and anecdotes of asexual and aromantic people celebrating Valentine's Day, but I think we've probably already heard quite enough. We've heard, for example, this sentence. Again, roughly 1% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans are asexual. Now, let's think about that. Bisexual Americans are asexual. That is exactly like saying that 1% of polytheistic people are atheistic, or that 1% of empathetic people are apathetic. You cannot be something and also the negation of that thing at the same time. If somebody is sexually attracted to two sexes, or sexually attracted to the same sex, that means they do experience sexual attraction, which would seem to preclude them from claiming the title of asexual. But then again, we must remember the first rule of the LGBT cult, which is that they can make it up all as they go along, and nothing they say has to comport with anything else they say. And they must never be held to even the most basic standard of coherence. That's why any attempt to nail down a definition of what qualifies as asexual or aromantic will ultimately wind up as fruitless as any attempt to get anyone on the left to give a definition of literally any other word.
He's mostly right. And this is my problem with conservatives and how they do their thing. How they get people is that they'll say some right stuff and then they'll throw in some other stuff. So like him throwing in at the end, like, just trying to get the left to describe anything. Blah, blah, blah. I just, I know where you're going with that, sir. But his point about you can't be asexual and also bisexual is true. Because if you're bisexual, you're not asexual, you're allosexual, which would mean, you're not asexual. And like I said in the previous video, I take issue with the article making that claim because of exactly what Matt is saying, but also the fact is they cited an article as a source of them saying that. They're being like, oh, according to this study 1% of lesbian, gay, bisexual people are asexual, da da da. And I went and I looked at that study, and that's not what the study said. The study was comparing the people who they found who identified as asexual to people who their experiences to people who identified as gay, bi, da da da. The problem with even that article, though, is when you're doing a lot of self-reporting, you get people who say, I'm asexual and I experience sexual attraction. And so the people who say that are also going to be the people who are going to be like, since I also experience sexual attraction, I am bisexual, gay, da 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 da. And that's confusing, obviously. And so what Matt is saying here is correct. Like, if you are bisexual, you wouldn't go around telling people that you're gay. If you're straight, you wouldn't go around telling people that you're bi. You know what I mean? Like how many times will you hear a straight person or a bisexual person say, "Yeah, I'm bisexual, but I'm gay too. I'm bisexual, but I'm straight too. I'm gay, but I'm also straight sometimes." You see how that doesn't make any sense? There's already a name for what you are. If you are bisexual, there's already a name for what you are. And I feel like people are acting like there's not names already for it. So they have to say bisexual plus this, or I'm pansexual minus one, or I'm bisexual plus two. Like, you add numbers and shit to identities. And that's not, you don't need to do that because we already have the words to describe our experiences. Now, are people making up new words? Absolutely. I've seen several times where people are making up new words, even to describe stuff like demisexual or gray sexual. I saw online in one of the ace groups somebody being like, okay, if I'm only attracted to women sexually, um, does that mean that I'm gray sexual? And I was like, what? Does that mean I'm under the asexual umbrella if I'm attracted to women sexually? And I'd be like, based on what you said, no. But then other people being like, but there's a bunch of different identities under the asexual label that you can go and look at and find one that fits you if you like it. And I'm just like, they're they're saying they're sexually attracted to women. They identify as a man, which means that they are heterosexual, or they'll say, but I'm romantically attracted to men and women. I was like, oh, there's a word for that. That's panromantic or biromantic. Either one, this works, you know, but you'd still be heterosexual because there was no other qualifiers. But people are so quick to be like, but there's a bunch of other labels that you can grab that can make you feel special. If you really want to say you're ace, you can find a label that you identify with. And they get so excited. Ma'am, no, what are you doing? Why did you just do that? Morticia, me and you gonna have to box one day, okay? Walking across my computer like that. Y'all probably didn't even see her because she was under the camera. Anyway, there is just like, that's the frustrating piece about all of this for me, is that people are so quick to try to fit something under the asexual umbrella. Now, y'all already know how I feel about asexuality being considered an umbrella in the first place, but it's like there are people who just want to say they're asexual because it's cool to say they're asexual. So they make up these extra labels, they make up these extra identities, and then say, this is technically asexual, so I can call myself asexual. Like, what's so sexy about calling yourself asexual? A lot of people don't even like us like that. You know what I mean? And it's just frustrating and it's annoying. And I take issue with it. And I understand where Matt is coming from when he's like, this makes no sense. This is stupid. And y'all are just saying stuff to say stuff because you can't even nail down the definition of asexuality. And he is right. He is right. That is the truth. We refuse, not me, but I will say we as a part of the ace community, we refuse to adhere to a strict definition of asexuality. Because if we do that, then a lot of people who've been claiming that they are ace won't fit under that definition. And the definition of asexuality cannot be, if you want to say you're ace, then you're ace. That can't be the definition. That's not empirical. That's not like if they want to do a study on it like they try to do, they can't, because we can't even tell them what asexuality means. That's a problem. And so I understand what he's saying here, and he is right. Now I'm not saying he's about to be right about everything in the video. I'm just saying that with regards to that specific thing, and saying that he is right. The article is wrong. And the article that article references to back up their statement and make themselves seem more legit doesn't even agree with what they said because they didn't say what they said. But even the study is a little off because it's self-reporting, and you can't really self-report with the way that the community is right now. I don't know what other issues there are on the left where they just like make up labels about stuff, but with regards to asexuality, they are just making up shit and they don't want to be held accountable to have a specific definition of asexuality. They don't want to do it because then once they do it, a bunch of people are going to be like, well, I don't fit in the label anymore. And that's okay because there's plenty other labels for you. But they don't want to do that. No central person, not even the guy who founded Avon, wants to step up and say, some of y'all ain't ace. And it's okay if you're not ace. But they acting like if you don't let them be ace, like they're going to lose their shit. Like you're going to be okay if you need to find another label that fits you. Just saying. Now I got to go back to the point that he was originally at because Morticia stepped on my thing.
To prove my point, here's the Cambridge University website attempting to delineate between these two categories of asexual and aromantic. This is what it says. Asexuality is an orientation defined by a lack of sexual attraction. That means that an asexual or ace person experiences little or no sexual draw towards others and has little or no desire to have sexual relationships with other people. However, the asexual spectrum has many nuanced identities that fall under the umbrella term asexual. Some of the more common ones are gray sexuality or gray asexuality, where someone experiences sexual attraction rarely or infrequently. Another common identity is demisexuality or demi-asexuality, where someone only experiences sexual attraction after forming a close emotional or romantic bond with another person. There are many other identities on the ace spectrum, but what they all have in common is the lack, to varying extents, of sexual attraction. Aromanticism, on the other hand, make sense now? Now, there's a lot going on here. Actually, let me amend that. There is nothing going on here. This is a whole lot of nothing, which is trying to sound like something. It's a bunch of narcissistic, fart-sniffing mumbo-jumbo dressed up to sound complex and nuanced, when in fact all the complexities and nuances are just varying degrees of self-contradiction.
Before I let him continue, I will say I don't blame that article that he's referencing for describing asexuality and aromantic identity the way they did, because when you try to describe these things, you are in a pickle. Like you are in a bind where there's really no way to do this properly. Like if you try to just say like, oh, asexuality means that you lack sexual attraction, you're going to have people in the comments being like, this is a trash article. How dare you? You have offended everyone here because there are asexuals who experience sexual attraction and therefore you are wrong and you are terrible and you a piece of shit. Everybody boycott them, blah, 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 blah. Everybody attack them in the comments. That's exactly how it be. I can pick this back up now. I know I look crazy, but this is how I'm going to do my wash day. I'm going to have to do it in sections. Here. So for him to read that and be like, this is like mumbo jumbo, it kind of is, but I don't blame the article because they are afraid that if they don't include 50 million things, like a bunch of different caveats as they're describing these orientations, that they're going to get shit. Because whenever you try to represent the asexual community or the aromantic community, you have to make sure that you include 50 million caveats and contradictions, because if you got to make sure that you're like catching everything, because there's so much, and yes, they do contradict each other, and it's upsetting that the that these universities who are doing these studies feel so trapped and beholden to the whims of internet people, because again, as somebody who's very big on research and doing things empirically, the way we are representing the community at this point is not empirical at all. There's no way to accurately measure how many asexual people there are, because it's really just based off self-reporting, and the self-reporting is messed up because there are people who want to say they're asexual even when they're not. And I've seen it. like I've seen it where people like will say they are just because they will have every experience that is to the contrary of the definition of asexuality, but they want to call themselves asexual. I've seen people say, okay, actually, I have these experiences that show that I am really just heterosexual, fully heterosexual, but I've been calling myself ace, for the last several months. And I just really like identify with the word, you know what I mean? And I don't want to stop calling myself ace. And then people being like, oh, yeah, you can totally keep calling yourself ace. They literally describe the fact that they are 100% heterosexual with no caveats. But these micro labels and these extra additions to it will give you a free reign to be like, technically, I'm asexual because I'm only heterosexual during the day. And if that sounds crazy to you, go watch my videos on micro labels and sexual and attractions, because there are labels that literally will let you get away with saying that and then claim to be under the asexual umbrella. And that's a problem. The fact that he is, making this video and criticizing us is not because he doesn't fully understand or he just is choosing to attack asexual people for no reason. Everything he's saying from the article is actually what was said in the article, but sprinkled in with his commentary. The article said what it said. He didn't rewrite parts of the article to say that it said something else that it didn't say. It did say that. He went off the first part of it and then talked about how ridiculous it was. And he went to a study and he talked about how ridiculous that was. So he's not misconstruing the information that's being given to him. He's just reacting to it in a way that is not consistent with the way that people on the left would react to it. So I will say that, like, it's our fault that he is attacking us this way. It is the asexual community's responsibility to represent itself in a consistent way so that when we get attacked online and like this, we have comebacks. But we're not representing ourselves properly on the internet. We are not representing ourselves properly in these articles. So when someone like Matt Walsh latches onto that and uses it to say, like, you people are crazy, you can't get mad at him for saying that, because he's literally going off the bullshit that we have spewed out into this community for years. And I know y'all want to be like, oh, but he's right leaning and don't get me wrong, we're gonna get to the way he spins shit in a minute. But I'm just letting y'all know, like, that's how I feel at that point. Because when you make a label, when you have an orientation, and then within the definition of that orientation are active contradictions to each other, you cannot be mad that people will say that makes no sense because it's contradictory, because it is contradictory. And you cannot demand that people understand something that is written in a way to make them not understand it. Now, maybe your brain has enough cognitive dissonance to be able to hold those contradictory ideas within your brain because that's what fits you, or that's what's socially acceptable to believe. But that doesn't mean that everybody has to ascribe to that. That doesn't mean everybody has to be on the same wavelength as you. I said this in a video before. Some of y'all get so used to your echo chambers that you just assume that everybody agrees with you and believes you, and you can't stand up to right-wing attacks because you have not fortified the community in a way that makes it impenetrable to these attacks. You have created a community that is vulnerable to these attacks, and it won't be long before people say nobody respects you or believes this is real because y'all sound crazy when you have to say asexuality means you lack sexual attraction, except for when you do have sexual attraction, and whatever reason that you have sexual attraction is your business. But you can say that you have sexual attraction while also being asexual, because asexuality doesn't mean that you lack sexual attraction. Didn't you start with asexuality means you lack sexual attraction? Yeah, but it also means that it don't mean that. So what does it mean? It means both things. Why? Oh, because sometimes people might feel that they do have it, but they don't. So then they will call themselves asexual. You see how you sound? And then this other part that he's saying about, you're narcissistic, you're crazy, all that stuff. That's just, typical right wing stuff. But again, what y'all gonna say back? What is your argument other than he's just being mean-spirited right now? Let me let him finish his sentence.
There's actually no meaningful distinction between sexual attraction and romantic attraction. The two terms are synonyms. If a person told you that they were romantically attracted to you, but not sexually attracted, they will have given you no useful information about their feelings towards you. They will.
Okay. So that part too. Now, I understand why he doesn't understand this. And y'all need to understand too. Because people whose romantic and sexual attraction are linked to each other will never be able to understand that they can be separate. Because for their entire lives, those two things have been together. Most people who are heterosexual are also heteromantic. Most people who are homosexual are also homoromantic. It is rare that you get people who are heteromantic and homosexual. That is rare. And y'all got to be okay with the fact that that is rare and the fact that people may not understand that. And so when he says, if someone says they're romantically attracted to you, but not sexually, and that doesn't really give you any information, that might be true for a lot of people. Because if you are a heterosexual, heteromantic person and your partner says, I'm romantically attracted to you, but not sexually, that's going to hurt your feelings because you're going to be like, so you don't find me sexually attractive? That's a key part of the relationship for me. So yeah, that is a hurtful thing to say to people. Now, if you're asexual and you are alloromantic of some kind, then it makes sense that you would understand the distinction there. But you also got to understand that if your partner isn't asexual and is allosexual, alloromantic, that they may not understand those distinctions because for them it's always been linked like this. So, do I feel like they are separate things? Absolutely. I don't agree with him here, but I do understand why he feels the way he feels and why he says what he says. Because for him, those two things in his experience are the same thing. And I'm not saying that, there won't be a day where allosexual, alloromantic people understand the difference. But I am saying that right now, y'all got to be okay with the fact that there are a lot of people who don't understand that difference. You have to, you know. So for him to feel like they're synonymous, that just makes sense for allo people. They feel like they're the same thing. Um, and I will say, as I said in other videos, people, even in the asexual community, treat the romantic orientation and sexual orientation as they are mirrors of each other. And I don't agree with that either, but that's another video.
Will, however, have given you useful information about the tedious inner workings of their own inane and pretentious minds. As for demi-aromanticism, or someone who feels romantic attraction, especially after forming a strong emotional bond, well, that is simply called being a person.
So you see how he just described it, right? Demi-romantic or being demi-romantic means that you feel romantic attraction, especially after forming a bond. That word especially. Okay, that word especially assumes that you felt it anyway, but you feel it more when you get a romantic attraction. So that is a little, your little wordplay there that gives you the hints that you need to understand, like the workings of his mind. I do feel like, again, like I just said, asexual people and aromantic people treat these orientations as if they are mirrors of each other. But I feel like sexual orientation and romantic orientation are different parts of the brain. And I don't feel like you can mirror them because I do feel like most people fall in love after forming a strong bond to the person. The falling in love part is forming a strong bond to the person. You know what I mean? Now, there are a lot of people who will get in a romantic relationship and not be in love with each other, and that's fine. They will get in a romantic relationship and not be romantically attracted to each other, and that's fine. But don't you step across the. God damn it. What do you want? What do you want? Crazy. What was I saying? Yes, so demi-romantic orientation would be considered just like how everybody else experiences romance. Now, I know some people might say, well, there are people who fall in love without bonds. The falling in love part is the bond. That's the thing. Now, are there people who have issues where they may not even understand what love is or what a healthy romantic relationship looks like? and they will go home with someone from a bar that they just met and be like, let's get married? Of course. But those come from things like attachment injuries. You know what I mean? That's not, I fell in love with someone without a bond. That person is not likely in love. They're likely having a preoccupied attachment where they are living out a fantasy and they decide that this is what they want to do with their lives without fully understanding the ramifications of it. As I understand, at least, the falling in love part is establishing that strong emotional bond. So for him to feel that being demi romantic is just what everybody else is like and is normal, as people say, stop saying, is accurate. Is accurate. And I do agree with that part.
I mean, it's more common that a woman's romantic attractions hinges on an emotional connection.
I disagree with him on this part. I don't like when men try to do the whole women are more emotional and men aren't. So women have to have emotional connection to be in love and men don't. I don't agree with that. That's typical right wing man shit.